What's up, friends? Welcome back to the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Happy Packers-Jets game day. Should be, I think, a fun, entertaining game. I think this is going to be a game that is relatively close, and I think we're going to learn a lot more about the Green Bay Packers after this one. Before we get into my preview and breakdown and keys to this game, we did have some transactions on Saturday, so let's start with that. Juwann Winfree called up from the practice squad. This is his third call-up, so it's the last time they'll be able to do that. If they want to play him again this season, they will have to add him to the 53-man roster. But with Sammy Watkins on IR, Christian Watson out, Juwann Winfree gets the call. I would assume that he will be ahead of both Amari Rodgers and Samori Toure. I would assume, once again, that Samori Toure is inactive for this game. Amari active, but probably not an actual active role within the offense. And Winfree will, in fact, have some role in some capacity. I think this is going to be a lot of Dobbs, a lot of Lazard, of course, and a lot of Cobb, but I think we will get some Winfree as well. So he gets the call up. Tipa Galeai also goes on IR. No corresponding move there, so they do have a active roster spot available moving forward. We'll have to wait and see what they do with that. But I think really sort of the big news is that they did not call up an outside linebacker. And with Tipa going on IR, that's fairly noteworthy. And the reason being, of course, is that Rashan Gary was questionable with a toe injury. If he was unable to go, I cannot envision any scenario in which they don't call up an outside linebacker. Remember, they have Ladarius Hamilton as well as Kobe Jones on the practice squad. And even if they thought that he could play, but maybe he wouldn't get his normal amount of snaps, or they were worried he couldn't get through a game, there's no question that they activate an outside linebacker in that scenario. So I think this has to be good news for Rashan Gary, that he's not only able to go, but they have confidence that he's going to be able to make it through the entirety of the game, because otherwise they would just have, Enigbare, Jonathan Garvin, and Preston Smith, and that's just not enough. And I know I saw some people say, all right, well, what about Quay Walker? He's got some versatility. He could play on the edge. Listen, Quay Walker has a lot on his plate just at inside linebacker right now. He needs to focus on that and learn that position and start mastering that position, because he's a far way off just from that. Now, I'm not saying that Quay can't be used in a variety of different ways, but him being on the edge is sort of like a niche sort of thing. This is not something that you want him on the edge for even 15, 20 snaps per game. You could use him on 3 to 4, maybe 5 snaps as something different to throw at a team. That's totally fine. But right now you want him focusing on inside linebacker, and he's just not big and physical enough to hold up consistently at the point of attack on the edge, especially against two good running backs like Michael Carter and Breece Hall. So I do not see that as an option. Like I said, I think this is very good news for Rashan Gary, that he will be able to go in this game and probably be a significant contributor as well. Otherwise, like I said, I guarantee you they would have pulled up either Kobe Jones or Ladarius Hamilton. So good news there. We'll see what the inactives say at 10:30 a.m. Lambeau time on Sunday morning, and if there's any surprise inactives or anything like that. But my guess is this is sort of the same red shirt type players that they've been inactivating all season long. The Sean Ryans, the Rasheed Walkers, the Samori Toures, those type of players. So don't think we're going to get any crazy surprises. Christian Watson, of course, will be inactive as well. All right, let's talk about the keys to this game, because I do think this is a very important game. As Jair Alexander sort of summed things up after the end of last game, was he concerned after the loss to the Giants? No, but he basically said if we lose to the Jets, then we can start talking about being concerned. I'm sort of in the same camp. I think we have all discussed ad nauseum all of the concerns that we have coming off of not only the Giants loss, but really through 5 weeks of the season so far. So there's plenty of concerns to go over, but I think the concern level goes up exponentially if you go from really no showing, kind of at times against the Patriots, no showing at the end of the game and really losing the game to the Giants, and then losing at home to the Jets. That would be a DEFCON, whatever you want to call it, level threat of all right, in losing Matt LaFleur's first time losing, back-to-back regular season games. There would just be if the panic button wasn't hit, but up to this point, Like the takes will be through the roof. So that would definitely, that's why this game feels important, right? It feels a little bit lofty. It feels a little bit weighty. On the flip side, and I think what we can manifest on the other side is that if Green Bay goes and they get a really nice win against the Jets, I know it's just the Jets. I know they're, coming in with a winning record, but I still think that if they can get back on the right track and put up a really nice performance at home against New York, I think that's going to go a long way in calming some of the concerns and fears up until this point. Whether it should or not, that's maybe another story for another day, but I think it would go a long way in sort of getting them back on track, getting into Washington, hopefully picking up a win on the road, and then continuing the rest of the season from there. So this does feel like a pivotal game is the wrong word, but it's a pivot point in the season where you lose, things get very shaky, very fast, a little panicky. You win ugly, and I don't think you've really answered any questions. You win big, you may not have answered any questions because it's the Jets, but you feel a heck of a lot better because you've got that big win. So we'll see what direction the remainder of this season goes in. All right, let's talk about my 12 keys to the game as we do every given Sunday. The first one, or whatever day they play. The first one is, and we talked about it all week long, how does the defense play? And there is so much that goes into this that we could talk about this for probably, I don't even know how long, like probably up until the game is over. But I think there's so much that goes into this. So first of all, how do they play their corners? Meaning, is Rasul on the outside and Jair on the inside? They mentioned that maybe Darnell Savage could play some on the inside with Rudy Ford at safety. Do they play more aggressive up at the line of scrimmage, some bump and run man-to-man? Like, how do the defensive backs not only line up, but how do they play in this game? Who is there? Like, there's so much that goes into that. So I want to see that. I want to see how aggressive they are up front. Are we starting to see some corner blitzes, some players blitzing from depth, whether that be safeties, inside linebackers, whomever, don't really care. Do we see some outside linebackers dropping in coverage, just a little bit more confusion for the opposing offense, and Zach Wilson, who isn't comfortable going through progressions yet? Like, how does this defense play? Are they better rallying to the football? Do your stars play better? Like, does Devondre Campbell look like all pro Devondre Campbell, or is it the same Campbell that we've seen so far this year? I think all of these questions are in play, and I really want to see the level of intensity, the level of physicality, rallying to the football, tackling, all of it improve. And I'm really interested to see the overall results on the defensive side of the ball. The process and the results, because the results are one thing, but if the process is so much better, even if it takes a little bit of time to sort of get into that and like learn how to play that style, okay, I can give some forgiveness there, but I want to see this team start taking some serious steps in the right direction defensively, because as I've talked about all week, their path to being a successful football team starts and ends with a extremely successful defense. And if they can't get there, your odds of being successful come January and February are done. It's over with. So they need to start taking a very serious step in the right direction. I'm hoping that starts taking place this coming Sunday, or game day today as you're listening to this. All right, number 2. How do the Jets use sort of the knowledge of Green Bay playing more aggressive against Green Bay? And this is the game within the game, right? Green Bay's played some of the most passive football of any defense through the first 5 weeks of the season. And it is very obvious and clear that Joe Barry got the message from Matt LaFleur, or whomever, most likely Matt LaFleur, that things need to change and that they need to be more aggressive, both from how they play their corners, as well as being more aggressive, blitzing the quarterback and getting pressure on the quarterback, etc. So the Jets now very clearly know that the Packers are probably going to play more man coverage, that they're probably going to play a little bit more physical at the point of attack, meaning in press, bump and run, man-to-man, that they're probably going to bring a few more blitzes. And do the Jets now use some of that knowledge against Green Bay, meaning, maybe they call a few more bubble screens to the outside. Maybe they're, doing some counters, draws, screens, whatever it may be to keep Green Bay off balance. Like, how do they use that knowledge that we all know that Green Bay is going to probably be more aggressive in this game and maybe flip the script a little bit? So I think Joe Barry and company actually need to be a little bit careful. As I mentioned in my scouting report episode, I do think that Preston and Gary and Clark and whomever else they want out there as a 4-man group, Jerron Reed, TJ Slayton, whomever, I do think their front four has the ability to get to the quarterback. So do you try that first with pressing guys up and playing a little bit more physical? Like, I think that could work. I don't think you have to bring like 6-7 guys all of a sudden, but I am curious to see the game within the game, knowing that Green Bay is going to be more aggressive. Does, how prepared are the Jets, and can they use that against Green Bay a little bit? Number 3, how can Green Bay go about containing Breece Hall? And this is another really important matchup. We talked all last week about Saquon, Barkley, and some of the concerns that this Green Bay run defense has had. Michael Carter's a very good running back, but Breece Hall is really the playmaker and the engine of this offense, and he can really do some special things on the football field, not all that dissimilar to Saquon Barkley. That may seem sacrilegious to Saquon Barkley and how he's been playing, but Breece Hall is that dang good, and you better account for him at all times. They will use him in the passing game, they will use him in the screen game, they will use him in the running game, they will use him in every way imaginable for a running back, and you have to constantly account for him. He is a playmaker, he is a stud, and he can do serious damage with the ball in his hands. So Green Bay's going to have to rally to the football. They're going to have to play with speed. They're going to have to use their instincts and not react. They're going to have to do everything they can to make sure that Breece Hall is not the player that is beating them this week, and they don't give him, let him gain momentum and really, keep them in third and shorts, or just not even third downs at all, and they're constantly picking up first downs. Breece Hall going to be the player that they have to contain. Number 4 on my list is just how effective is Rashan Gary, right? So we think there's good news that Rashan's going to play. They didn't elevate any outside linebacker, but how effective can he be? Does the toe injury affect him? Can he still convert speed to power with the same, functionality that he has throughout the course of the season so far? Can he get around the edge? Those are all things that are going to be major questions. And if it bothers him, or if it limits his snaps, or if he's not the same, that is going to affect what Green Bay can do defensively. So not only is he playing, but how effective is he when he's out there? That will be worth monitoring early in this game and as the game goes along. Number 5, you have to limit Zach Wilson's initial read, and that is where I really want to see the corners be a little bit more aggressive with these wide receivers up front. If Zach Wilson has the ability to step back in the pocket, get his footwork set, and go to his first read and rip the football, he can be dangerous is the wrong word, because most quarterbacks can do that, but he can deliver an accurate ball on time with great efficiency, and he can burn you that way. If Green Bay's allowing some of those easy completions on the outside by playing off, the guys like, Davis and Wilson and Moore, they have the ability to make some plays after the catch too. And this isn't the most, efficient tackling defense for Green Bay in the secondary. So you really got to take away that first read, meaning a little bit more physicality, bump and run coverage, and just making sure that those guys aren't getting clean releases off the line of scrimmage and just getting those easy completions. If Zach Wilson has to sit in the pocket a little bit more, gets happy feet, his eyes start to drop, does a little dancing around, will throw the ball away, will throw the ball to your team, that's where you want to see Zach Wilson. If he's in rhythm, he's got an opportunity to beat you. If he's off rhythm, you're probably going to beat him. So it literally could come down to something that simple, just watching how he delivers the football. If he's delivering the ball on time with confidence within the flow of the system and specifically hitting his first read, you're probably in for a long day. If he's not, you're probably in for a great day and have the ability to probably get some turnovers and maybe even extremely limit this Jets offense and maybe set your offense up for success as well. Number 6, beware Braxton Berrios, a very talented returner. If you give him a hole or a crease, he will have the ability to take it to the end zone. So Green Bay's special teams has been far above what we expected going into the season. Rudy Ford, Keyshawn Nixon, Dallin Levitt, those guys should have a huge role. They do lose Tipa Naliai, who is one of their top special teams performers, at least in regards to snaps played, so they will have to replace him. But you've got to make sure that Braxton Berrios is not killing you as a kick returner and as a punt returner. Number 7, the offense has to figure out this vertical passing game. Adam Stenavich basically stood at the podium. Matt LaFleur basically stood at the podium and have told us to our faces, hey, the process is good. If we get one-on-ones on the outside and they're playing 8 guys in the box and we have the ability to attack down the field, we're going to do that because that's the right thing to do. And they're not wrong, but they have to convert. They have to connect on those plays. And that goes to the wide receivers gaining separation and making sure they finish the catch at the point of attack. And it also means that Aaron Rodgers has to hit those wide receivers in stride. It means the wide receivers have to be at the right spot that Aaron Rodgers is expecting them to be in. It means that the referees need to call the illegal contact penalties when there is clear and obvious illegal contact. All of that stuff goes hand in hand, but the vertical passing game has to be better than it has been. They can't just have these plays where they're basically throwing away the football, or Rodgers is throwing balls up to grabs like he did against Harrison Smith. These plays need to connect. They need explosive plays. And there's a lot of pressure on Romeo Doubs, right? Because there's no Christian Watson. Randall Cobb's not really that guy. Lazard's not like a burner down the field. We've seen him be a little bit of a playmaker down the field, so that's possible. But like, they don't have this, like Juwan Winfrey's not, so like Tunyon's not, DeGuara's not, Mercedes Lewis certainly is not, Tyler Davis isn't. Like Aaron Jones, you can maybe get a little bit, but like he's not, Dylan's not. Like, it almost is up to Romeo Doubs, which just puts a lot of pressure on a 4th-round rookie. But they got to get that vertical passing game going in some capacity. Hopefully, this is the game that they can start attacking these corners. The Jets have good corners, playmakers, and ball hawks, so you got to be careful. But they're going to have to hit on some of those plays, because I guarantee you the Jets are going to challenge in the box and make Aaron Jones not as effective and make them win on the outside, because Green Bay hasn't shown a propensity or an ability to beat teams on the outside with that vertical passing game. Number 8, help on Carl Lawson is needed. I think you can trust your tackles for the most part, within the flow of the game. But there are going to be some third downs where I think you're going to want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on him, whether that's putting a tight end to that side, whether that's chipping with a running back, chipping with a tight end, chipping with a wide receiver. There's a lot of little things you can do to help out your tackles. But I do think that he's the guy that you want to limit and make sure that he's not causing havoc in the backfield, maybe forcing fumbles, etc. He's a big-time player, and he will wreck games if you let him. Make sure you are not letting him do that, especially on some obvious passing downs. Number 9, we could say this every game, and most of the time the game comes down to this, but I think Green Bay actually has a huge advantage here, potentially, and that's controlling the line of scrimmage. First and foremost, on the defensive side, I think Green Bay's defensive front is far better than the Jets' offensive line. That has to be a win for Green Bay. They have to get pressure, they have to stop the run, and they have to play one of their more sound games of the season so far, because they're just not facing a very good offensive line. And on the other side, I don't think that the Jets front is like incredible, but they're good. They're really good at times. But I think you have the ability to run the football on them, and you can outflank them to the outside. And I think that's an opportunity where Green Bay can get this running game going. If they get the running game going, that's going to make those defenders probably shoot a few less gaps, which is where they're most dangerous. And that'll get hopefully the play action game going and some of those deep shots down the field. So watch the line of scrimmage. If the Packers are winning it, it's going to be a opportunity for a big day. If the Jets are winning it, be a little bit on alert, because that could make things very difficult and challenging for the Packers. Number 10, can TJ Slayton start stacking success? We saw some monster plays by TJ Slayton last week. He is a huge, physical, fast, for his size, athletic dude, and he can make some crazy things happen with his raw athletic ability. He is starting to put things together as a defensive tackle. His technique's getting better, and he is becoming a potentially scary individual for opposing offenses. Can he now set that bar every week of that's how he's able to play? Because if you put that next to Kenny Clark, like you are setting yourself up for some serious success along the defensive line, and that could be extremely fun. And now you talk Slayton, Jerron Reed, and Kenny Clark with Rashan Gary and Preston Smith on the outside. Like, you are cooking with gas. So I really would love to see TJ Slayton stack success and put those big-time playmaking plays on tape over and over and over. I'm not saying he needs to make 5-6 plays a game, but if he can make 2 or 3 plays where he's splitting double teams getting into the backfield, Green Bay will have a real weapon on their hands on the defensive interior. Number 11 is keep the crowd on your side. This is one of those games where if they start chucking the ball down the field and things aren't going their way, the Jets get an early lead, this crowd could turn, I think, on Matt LaFleur and the Packers. This has not been a happy week in Packerland. There is some angst, there is some frustration, and if the Jets come into Lambeau and outplay the Packers in that first half, you will hear some booing and you will hear a very frustrated fan base. I really believe that, whether it's right or wrong. I think that's going to be the case. On the flip side, this is a great Lambeau crowd, 80,000 strong, that has the ability to really flip things in their favor. And if Green Bay gives them a reason to be loud and obnoxious and every other great way to, annoy the Jets and their fans, I think they will do that. So it's up to Green Bay and both the offense and the defense to give something for this fan base to cheer about and get them on their side early. I know that maybe sounds blasphemous, like the fans should be on the side no matter what, and they should be cheering on their team and loud no matter what. Yeah, you certainly can make that argument. But I think this is a fan base that's a little bit frustrated right now. And if you give them a reason to boo, I don't think they're going to hesitate to do so. So this Packer offense, defense, they need to keep the crowd on their side. And then last but not least, can you kickstart the MVP a little bit? Like, this is the back-to-back MVP, 4-time MVP total, arguably the best player in the league. And he's looked extremely pedestrian through 5 weeks. And that might be being a little bit kind. So you've got to get him going in some capacity. Part of that's on Aaron. He's got to play better. He's got to play within the flow of the offense. He's got to make better decisions. He's got to throw more accurately. Like, he needs to start playing like the MVP. But I also think that there's ways to get this offense humming and going a little bit better than it has so far. I don't think this has been a great scheme and offensive flow so far through 5 weeks. I don't think Rodgers has played great. I don't think the offensive line has played great. The line needs to play better. The receivers need to separate. The coaches need to call better plays and have a better, game plan set up. And Rodgers needs to play better. But in some way, shape, or form, this quarterback needs to start playing at an extremely high level if this team wants long-term success this year. And that needs to start with the New York Jets getting on track at home. I know Rodgers wanted this noon, Sunday game. They got it, and hopefully Rodgers responds with a massive performance. Final prediction in this one: Packers 27, Jets 20. I think this could be one where it's like 27-13. Jets get a late score just to kind of make it annoying at the end. But I'm going to say 27-20 Packers at the end when all is said and done. Make sure to subscribe if you have not already. I will be right back here tomorrow breaking everything down, so make sure to check that out as well. That does it for me today. Enjoy the game, but until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.